I was told to sit still, keep quiet, and not touch a thing, so naturally, the one thing I touched changed everything. Hello, my name is Carolyn Hughes. I'm 72 years old, and I never imagined I'd be the kind of woman pouring her heart out like this. But life has a way of backing you into corners you didn't see coming. If you're here for drama, betrayal, and the slow burn of revenge that doesn't scream but settles, then stay with me. Because this didn't start with shouting. It started with a sentence said too casually to be kind. "Mom, just don't touch anything, okay?" That was what my daughter said to me as she walked ahead, keys jangling, already unlocking the door to what used to be my house. She didn't turn around when she said it. I stood on the porch for a moment longer than necessary, my hand resting on the railing, feeling the old wood beneath my palm. The paint was peeling in the same place it always had. I'd meant to fix that. Funny how many things you mean to fix before someone else decides you're done deciding. I smiled to myself, a tight one. "Of course," I said, even though she was already inside. The house smelled different, cleaner, sharper, like lemon and something artificial trying too hard to feel fresh. The furniture had been rearranged, not badly, just deliberately, like someone making sure there was no room left for the version of me that used to live there. I followed her in slowly, not because I needed to, but because she expected me to. She kept glancing back, that careful look people use when they're managing something fragile, not helping, managing. "We've organized everything," she said. "It's just easier this way." Easier for who, I wondered. She motioned toward the couch. "You can sit." I did. I folded my hands in my lap and waited while she busied herself in the kitchen, opening cabinets, closing them, narrating her competence without meaning to. I wasn't invited back to live there. That part was already decided. This visit was framed as a courtesy, a walk-through, closure. She talked about selling, about timing, about how hard it all was on her. I nodded at the right moments, but my eyes kept drifting, because something was missing. The bookshelf against the far wall, the one my husband built when we first moved in, was still there, but the middle shelf was empty. My chest tightened. I stood. She noticed immediately. "Mom, please don't." "I'm just looking," I said. Her lips pressed together. I said not to touch anything. The words weren't cruel. They were worse. They were dismissive, final. I walked toward the shelf anyway. That's when I saw it. Or rather, didn't. The small wooden box was gone. The one carved with flowers that had softened over time. The one that never held anything valuable to anyone but me. I felt something cold slide down my spine. "Where is it?" I asked. She froze. "What?" she said too quickly. "The box," I said. "From here." She sighed, already irritated. "Mom, it was just clutter. I put it away." "Where?" Her shoulders tensed. "It's not important." I laughed then, a soft, broken sound that surprised both of us. "That's not for you to decide," I said. She crossed her arms, defensive. "You don't even remember what was in it." I looked at her, really looked. And that's when I realized something awful and clarifying all at once. She believed that. I reached past her before she could stop me and opened the hall closet. I didn't know why, instinct, maybe, or memory. Some things don't fade as easily as people hope. There it was, on the top shelf, pushed back like it was something shameful. I took it down. Her voice rose. "Mom, I told you." I opened the box. Inside were letters, old ones, folded carefully, the paper thin and yellowed, handwriting I could recognize anywhere. My husband's. The room went very still. "You had no right," I said quietly. She looked away. I didn't read them. That wasn't the point. Those letters weren't just memories. They were proof of love, of a life before I was reduced to someone who needed supervision. My hands shook as I closed the lid. That was the moment. Not when she told me not to touch anything. Not when she decided I was done making choices, but when I realized she had already started erasing parts of me and expected me to thank her for it. I held the box to my chest, and in that moment, I decided I wasn't going to be careful anymore. I didn't leave right away. That surprised her. I could see it in the way my daughter hovered near the doorway, arms crossed, foot tapping, waiting for me to do the sensible thing, the easy thing, apologize for touching what I wasn't supposed to, put the box back, accept the rules of the life she'd already rearranged. Instead, I sat back down on the couch, the wooden box still in my lap. My hands rested on it like it was something alive. She cleared her throat. "Mom, you're getting upset over nothing." Nothing. That word landed heavier than she realized. I opened the lid again, slowly this time, deliberately. The faint smell of old paper and seder rose up, familiar and grounding. I ran my thumb over my husband's handwriting, each letter slightly slanted, confident, alive. "You see these?" I said. "He wrote one every week when he traveled, sometimes more." She didn't answer. "He used to say writing them helped him feel closer to home," I went on, "that even when he was gone, he wanted me to have proof that I mattered." I looked up then. Her eyes flicked away. "I didn't throw them out," she said quickly. "I just put them somewhere safe." "You hid them," I replied, "because you decided they weren't important anymore." She snapped then, "Because you cling to the past. You sit here surrounded by things that make you sad and you don't even see it." I felt my jaw tighten. "You think these make me sad?" I asked. "These remind me I was loved." Her voice dropped. "You're lonely." That one hit. I won't pretend it didn't. "Yes," I said after a moment, "I am, but loneliness doesn't mean I'm finished." She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. "This is exactly what I mean. You can't handle everything by yourself anymore. Someone has to step in." "Step in," I echoed, "or step over?" Silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. She softened then, or tried to, sat beside me, reached for my arm like she used to when she was younger. "I'm just trying to help," she said quietly. "You don't see how fragile you've become." That word again. Fragile. I looked down at my hands, wrinkled, yes, veined, still steady. "I survived a marriage, a miscarriage, a mortgage, and burying the man I loved," I said. "If that made me fragile, I would have shattered a long time ago." She pulled her hand back. "I didn't mean it like that," she said, but she did. Later that evening, when she stepped outside to take a call, I wandered the house, slowly, carefully, not touching, just observing. The bedroom closet was half empty. My clothes gone, the ones she said she'd donate later. The filing cabinet in the study had been reorganized. Thinned out, I recognized the gaps like missing teeth. That's when the fear finally settled into something else. Anger. Not explosive, not dramatic. Focused. I went back to the couch and waited. When she returned, I said, "You've already started dividing my life up, haven't you?" She stiffened. "What are you talking about?" "You didn't ask me before giving things away," I said. "You didn't ask before moving papers. You didn't ask before hiding what mattered." She opened her mouth, then closed it. I stood, box in hand. "I'm taking this," I said. Her voice sharpened. "You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted, "because it's mine." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. I walked to the door. My heart pounded, but my steps were steady. At the threshold, I turned back. "You think touching that box was the problem," I said. "It wasn't. The problem is you forgot I'm still here." I left before she could answer. That night, back in my small apartment, I laid the letters out across the table and cried, not quietly, not politely. I cried for everything that had been taken without permission, and for everything I'd allowed because it was easier to stay quiet. But something else happened too. Between the tears, I made a decision. If she thought she could manage my life without me, then she was about to find out just how much control I still had. I didn't act right away. That's the part people don't expect when they hear stories like this. They imagine a dramatic phone call, a confrontation, a slammed door. But real resolve, the kind that lasts, tends to move quietly at first. It sits with you. It watches. It waits until your hands stop shaking. For a week after that visit, my daughter didn't call. Neither did I. I spent my mornings at the small kitchen table in my apartment, the wooden box open in front of me, letters spread out like evidence. I reread them slowly, not because I needed the memories, but because I needed to remind myself who I had been before someone decided I was no longer capable. Strong, decisive, trusted. I noticed things I'd glossed over before. Dates, names, mentions of accounts, of decisions we'd made together. My husband had always been meticulous. I smiled at that. He'd hated messes, hated loose ends. Good man to have loved, better man to have learned from. Midweek, my daughter finally called. Her voice was careful, controlled. We need to talk. We met at a cafe halfway between our homes. Neutral ground, public. Smart of her. I arrived early and chose a table near the window. I wanted to see her walk in, wanted to watch her face before she had time to arrange it. She looked tired, irritated, defensive before she even sat down. "You embarrassed me," she said without preamble. I raised an eyebrow. "By taking my own belongings? You made it seem like I was stealing from you," she snapped. "You were," I said calmly. Her mouth opened, then shut. She looked around, lowering her voice. "You don't understand how this looks. People already worry about you." There it was, not concern, image. I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Who are these people?" She hesitated. "Family, friends, me." I leaned forward. "Then they should worry about why you felt entitled to go through my things without asking." She crossed her arms. "You're twisting this." "No," I said. "I'm finally seeing it clearly." She looked at me, then really looked, like she was trying to gauge how far gone I was, how much resistance she'd meet. "I was going to handle everything," she said. "The house, the paperwork, your accounts. You wouldn't have had to worry." "And what would I have been allowed to do?" I asked. "Sit quietly. Say thank you." Her jaw tightened. I reached into my purse and placed a folded document on the table between us. She glanced at it, then frowned. "What's this?" "A copy," I said, "of the power of attorney you tried to have me sign 3 months ago." Her face went pale. "You told me it was for emergencies," I continued, "but you left out the part where you'd already spoken to a financial advisor and a realtor and started donating my belongings." She stared at the paper like it might bite her. "I didn't sign it," I said, "and now I never will." Her voice dropped. "You can't just shut me out." "I'm not," I replied. "I'm setting boundaries, something I should have done sooner." She laughed sharply. "You think you can manage everything on your own." I smiled. "I already am." I stood, leaving money on the table. She didn't stop me this time. That afternoon, I made appointments with a lawyer, with my bank, with a woman recommended by a friend who specialized in organizing estates with their owners, not over them. Each step felt like reclaiming a small piece of ground. That night, my phone buzzed with messages. My daughter, then her husband, then my sister. Concern, confusion, thinly veiled anger. I turned the phone face down. For the first time in a long while, I slept without dreaming, because I knew something they didn't yet understand. Touching that box wasn't defiance. It was a warning. And I was just getting started. They pushed back harder than I expected. Not loudly, not all at once, but in the quiet, coordinated way people do when they believe they're right, and you're the obstacle standing in the way of what they've already decided. It started with phone calls that went unanswered. Then appointments I hadn't scheduled suddenly appearing on my calendar. Then the visit. I came home one afternoon to find my daughter's car in my parking spot. That alone told me everything. She was sitting at my small kitchen table when I walked in, coat still on, purse beside her chair, like she planned to leave quickly if she needed to. Her husband stood near the counter, arms crossed. There was a man I didn't recognize sitting stiffly in the corner, hands folded over a leather briefcase. "This is Dr. Feldman," my daughter said, too brightly. "He's just here to talk." I set my grocery bag down slowly. "Talk about what?" I asked. She exchanged a glance with her husband. "We're worried about you." "Of course you are." Dr. Feldman smiled at me the way people smile at children and animals they don't want to startle. "Your family has some concerns about memory lapses, confusion, emotional volatility." I felt something hot flash behind my eyes. "I'm fine," I said. My daughter leaned forward. "You took legal steps without telling us. You accused us of things. You're isolating yourself." "I'm protecting myself," I said. Her husband spoke for the first time. "You're being unreasonable." That word again, different flavor, same message. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You brought a stranger into my home to tell me I'm losing my mind, and I'm the unreasonable one?" Dr. Feldman cleared his throat. "Mrs. Hughes, no one is saying you're incapable. Just that some guidance. You were sent here," I said, cutting him off, "because I stopped doing what they wanted." Silence. My daughter's face flushed. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I asked. "You hid my belongings. You tried to rush me into signing control over my life, and now you're questioning my competence because I said no." Her voice cracked. "We're trying to help you." "No," I said, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "You're trying to manage me." I turned to Dr. Feldman. "You can go." He hesitated. "Mrs. Hughes." "You are not my doctor," I said. "You are not invited, and you are not welcome." He stood slowly, awkwardly, murmured something about misunderstanding, and left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. My daughter stared at me like she'd just lost something she thought was guaranteed. "You embarrassed me again," she whispered. I walked to the cabinet and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. "You crossed a line," I said, "a dangerous one." Her husband scoffed. "You're overreacting." I turned to him. "You don't get a vote." That shut him up. I picked up my purse and pulled out the wooden box. I brought it with me deliberately. I set it on the table between us and opened it. "These letters," I said, "are written proof that I was loved, respected, and trusted to make my own decisions by a man who knew me better than anyone." My daughter's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. "I'm not him," she said. "I know," I replied, "and that's the problem." I closed the box. "This is what's going to happen," I said. "You will stop interfering in my finances. You will stop making plans for my belongings, and you will stop questioning my sanity every time I assert myself." Her voice was small. "Or what?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Or I will make sure every boundary you crossed is documented, legally, publicly if necessary." Her husband shifted. "You wouldn't." I smiled, not warmly. "Try me." They left shortly after. No shouting, no slammed doors, just a quiet retreat. That night, I sat alone at my table, the box beside me, the apartment dim and peaceful. I expected to feel shaken. Instead, I felt tall. Here's the thing no one prepares you for. Standing up for yourself at this age doesn't feel like rebellion. It feels like survival. They thought telling me not to touch anything would keep me small, but touching that one thing, the thing that mattered, reminded me who I was. And once you remember that, really remember it, there's no going back.